kunja bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vraja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Lalita Vishaka Jaya Radhesham, Lalita Vishaka Jaya Radhesham. Jaya Goranitai, Jaya Goranitai, Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय योग धर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन की श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So we are reading Canto 10, Chapter 49, Akrura's mission in Hastinapur, text 24. Svayam kilbiṣam ādāya Svayam kilbiṣam ādāya tais tyakto nārtha-kovidaḥ tais tyakto nārtha-kovidaḥ asiddhārtho viśati andhaṁ asiddhārtho viśati andhaṁ sva-dharma-vimukhas tamaḥ sva-dharma-vimukhas tamaḥ svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya tais tyaktaḥ asiddhārtho viśati andhaṁ sva-dharma-vimukhas tamaḥ svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya tais tyakto nārtha-kovidaḥ asiddhārtho viśati andhaṁ sva-dharma-vimukhas tamaḥ svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya Vaishnavis. Svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya Svayaṁ kilbiṣam ādāya asiddhārtho viśati word by word meaning. Svayam for himself. Kilbiṣam sinful reaction. Ādāya taking on, taiḥ, by them, tyaktaḥ, abandoned, not, artha, the purpose of his life, kovidaḥ, knowing properly, asiddha, unfulfilled, arthaḥ, whose goals, viśaty, he enters, andhaṁ, blind, sva, his own, dharma, to the religious duty, vimukhaḥ, indifferent, tamaḥ, darkness of hell. Translation and purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Abandoned by his so-called dependents, ignorant of the actual goal of life, indifferent to his real duty, and having failed to fulfill his purposes, the foolish soul enters the blindness of hell, taking his sinful reactions with him. Please repeat. Abandoned by his so-called dependents, ignorant of the actual goal of life, indifferent to his real duty, and having failed to fulfill his purposes, the foolish soul enters the blindness of hell, taking his sinful reactions with him. Purport. It is sadly ironic that materialistic persons who labor so assiduously to accumulate insurance, security, property, and family enter the darkness of hell equipped with nothing but the painful reactions of their sins. On the other hand, those who cultivate Krishna consciousness, spiritual life, while apparently neglecting to accumulate property, a large family, and so on, enter the next life enriched with many spiritual assets and thus enjoy the deep pleasures of the soul. Om ajnana-timirandhasya jnananjana-shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we are listening from Akruraji, and he is preaching to all of us, but here to Dhritarashtra. So we have heard this, that Dhritarashtra was quite attached to his own sons, and he wanted to give the entire kingdom to his son Duryodhana and abandoned the Pandavas. So Akrura is visiting Hastinapur with this mission to convince him about the real goal of life. So it's a very important message, because we also have many goals in our life, but the real goal of life is to serve Krishna. This is what Akrura was trying to convince Dhritarashtra. But Dhritarashtra was not open with his heart to accept the message, as we will hear in the following verses, and he is blaming the destiny, that everything happens by the will of the Lord. What can I do? Krishna has decided so it will happen like this. So it's an interesting argument, like Arjuna also gave many interesting argument to Krishna. All of us also have many interesting argument not to surrender, not to take complete shelter of the Lord. We also have many interesting arguments not to give full focused attention to the lotus feet of the Lord. So it is quite normal to a conditioned soul to keep giving interesting arguments, which is only interesting to us, not to Krishna though, but somehow it is bewildering and we waste the most valuable human form of life. But we are fortunate that we came in contact with this wonderful society started by Srila Prabhupada, and we have access to Bhaktivedanta purport, his books. We were hearing yesterday the importance of reading Srila Prabhupada books. Prabhupada himself was so focused on reading his own books because he said that these are not written by me. Krishna was personally dictating and I just wrote on behalf of the Lord. So this is a very powerful process to take shelter of the Lord by taking shelter of Bhaktivedanta purport. So the process is very simple, but somehow with our interesting arguments, because of our so-called heavy engagements in our life, we are unable to focus on the real purpose of life. So this was envisioned by Srila Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, and he knew that the Kali Yuga will have a lot of anomalies and it won't be easy for the conditioned soul to take shelter and surrender to this wonderful process of hearing and chanting. So after he wrote many shastras, by the mercy of his guru, Naradji, he started glorifying Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, and we have Srimad Bhagavatam before us. So these anomalies were known to the personalities about Kali Yuga, but still this age is very glorious because in the previous ages, lot of austerities have to be performed, like in Satyuga, meditation, then in Treta Yuga, Yagya, then Dwapar Yuga, establishing temples, but now it is very easy. Though the challenges are more, but the process is also becoming more and more simpler. This is how merciful the Lord is, that despite of our all limitations, He's having more anxiety to welcome us back home, back to Godhead, than we have a desire to go back home, back to Godhead. This is how merciful Krishna is. So, and also the devotees of the Lord, they are even more merciful than the Lord himself. So, here he is trying to convince Dhritarashtra to get out of this bodily attachment. So, the conditioned life or our descent to this material world is assigned to our attachment to the material body. So because we are attached to this concept of me and mine, and this is one subject which Srila Prabhupada talks the most, we can say like that. Body and spirit soul, body and spirit soul. Maybe practically every class we can have this point covered by Srila Prabhupada. You hear Bhagavad-Gita class from Prabhupada or you hear Bhagavatam class of Prabhupada. He is clearly emphasizing this misconception which we are living, that we are a body. Because it's very difficult to understand and acknowledge that we are a spirit soul. Though it's a preliminary, the beginning point of Bhagavad-Gita, that we are not this body but a spirit soul, and we have taken it for granted in a way that yes, we are a spirit soul, but then our actions should be in that direction. So it is very important to be always focused on this basic understanding that unless and until we get out of this conception of body, we will be more and more trapped, as we hear from different verses of Bhagavatam. So here, Prabhupada writes in one of the purport that the most foolish part of our ignorance is our identifying this material body with the self. This is the most foolish part of our ignorance. So we might be doing many intelligent things, and the world has achieved so many successful inventions and achievements, but still Prabhupada says it is advancement of foolishness. So it is too alluring to our current state of mind, and we get bewildered by it, but it is only advancement of foolishness, nothing more than that. So doubts due to the misconception of myself and mine, in other words, my body, my relatives, my property, my family, my bank balance, my so many my's, and then Prabhupada writes, and thousands of similar illusory contemplations. So this is still something external we can see, but then there are thousands of illusory contemplations. Even like coming to Krishna consciousness, we also have so many mine. My room, my bed, my mridang, there's so many my, and more illusory is my false ego. So many things are there which we are attached to on a subtler level, actually. So on the gross level, we are understanding this, but after entering into this lifestyle of Krishna consciousness, we have to go deep and address the more subtle aspects. Otherwise, we will be trapped, we will be more complacent, and we will be convinced by the deluding energy that we are on the right track, but most of the time we are not. So it's very, very, very important to be always in the shelter of pure devotees of the Lord, seek their guidance so that they can kick you at the right moment and awaken you if you are on the wrong track. So it's very, very important to have shelter of the devotees. Otherwise, it's easy to get puffed up. It's the most easy thing to be puffed up that I know now the process. I am in Vrindavan, I am in Krishna Balaram Mandir, I am doing wonderful services. But where the mind is focused on is the most important thing. So here, Akruja is talking about the material assets and the spiritual assets. So our mind should be focused on spiritual assets. And the spiritual assets are the lotus feet of the Lord, instructions of the Lord, guidance from the pure devotees, with an understanding that we are trying to please Guru and Krishna. That is on the subtler aspect, that we are meditating constantly that whatever we are doing is to please Guru and Krishna. Otherwise, it's a good start, even though we are doing it for something, achieving for ourselves, still it's a good start because it is purifying, it is connected to Krishna and the devotional service process. But the most important part is to be focused on, the beginning of my service is to please Krishna or to please my senses. So then it becomes spiritual asset. If everything we do is with an intent to please Krishna, that is very powerful and very impactful. And so like Arjuna was bewildered, he didn't want to fight, and then he heard the whole Bhagavad-Gita, and then he came to the stage of fighting now, but Mam Nusmara, thinking of Krishna, for pleasing Krishna. So even the others were fighting, but still Arjuna is glorious because he was fighting to fulfill the desire of the Lord. This is the Krishna's desire. So this Dhritarashtra's argument that it is Krishna's arranged, what can I do? But then Prabhupada writes in one of the purport that if our desire is as per the plan of the Lord, then we are devotees. But if our desire is independent of the plan of the Lord, then we are demons. So here Dhritarashtra's desire to fight. So Krishna is arranging a drama, he is the director. We are all having different assigned roles. And some becomes hero and some are the demons. So as per our desire, Krishna assigns us the role. So if Dhritarashtra wanted the role of a demon, so he got it like that. Not that Krishna chose him to become the demon. It was his desire to do it. So, but certainly the drama is designed by Krishna. Upadrashta, Anumanta cha, he is the overseer, he is the permitter. So nothing goes without his sanction. But still that free will which is given to us, that free will we choose, we want to be the servant of the Lord or we want to be servant of the senses. That is the only free will we have. There is no other free will. Rest everything is super controlled. Even as we keep discussing the movement of the hand, the different demigods are assigned and they are controlling the movement, and if Krishna doesn't decide, Krishna stops it, now the hand is paralyzed. But it is so automatic, everything looks that we are doing, kartaham iti manyate. But it is controlled by the three modes of material nature, Devi, Yesha, Gunmayi, Maya, Durataya. So it is every single action, not even a blade of grass, moves without the sanction of the Lord. So we have heard this, we speak this, but then now we have to live this. This is what the whole purpose of hearing Shastra. Prabhupada says that reading, discussing, and then practically applying in the life. If you don't apply in the life, then what is the point of hearing? So now being in this wonderful place, Vrindavan, now our more focus should be on application of what we are learning and hearing from senior devotees, from Bhagavatam, from Bhagavad-Gita. So here Dhritarashtra was unable to apply, that was his challenge. He has heard it. Many people tried to explain to him, but somehow he is not able to apply in his life. So if we are determined not to apply, then we are wasting the most valuable human life. So we should be very focused on these instructions and very carefully and scrutinizingly under the guidance of sincere devotees, try to remain attached to this process of hearing, chanting, thinking and worshipping the Lord. By this one can see Him, feel His presence. Like Arjuna was, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna left this world, and then Arjuna started meditating on the instructions, and then Prabhupada writes that he again felt the presence of the Lord by meditating on the instructions of Bhagavad-Gita. So similarly, if we also do this meditation and readings of Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam regularly, and this is the Yug Dharma, chanting is also reading Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting is also chanting of the holy name. So more we stay connected with the process, easier it is to get out of this bodily conception of life. Otherwise, it's very difficult. Otherwise, Prabhupada would have not spoken it so many times, the importance of understanding that we are not his body but a spirit soul. He would have advanced ahead he gave everything, but still his core emphasis was always on bringing us back to this teaching of that we are not his body but a spirit soul. I have some verses from teachings of Kyun Kunti. The verse is 1:826. Janashmarya Sruta Sribhir Itatmana Madapuman Naivarhati Adbhutam Vai Tvamakinchana Gocharam. So Kyun Kunti is saying that, my Lord, your lordships can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. So this is our prayer, materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, 4 things, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. So these are kind of deterrent or hurdles for progressing in the spiritual life. This is what Kunti and Prabhupada gives a title to this verse, Decreasing the Fever of Illusion. This is the title Srila Prabhupada gives to this verse in the book Teachings of Queen Kunti. So here, the important point we can accept is that only a helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord. Whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. This is what Prabhupada writes in the purport. So, helpless, we have all experienced sometimes we are in helpless situation. So at that time the sincerity is much more. So that helplessness is very, very important. So if we have lot of things to back up, a big bank balance, a big house, many, Prabhupada is also writing here, beauty, a big family, parentage. So this is kind of a obstacle. This is what this verse is saying. So the helplessness is like Narad Muni. Narad Muni was hearing from the sages and in the previous birth as a small child, and Krishna, and he was hearing, he was serving the sages in Chaturmas, and then Krishna, after the Chaturmas ends, the sages left and somehow the mother also dies. So Krishna took away everything and Narada was so helpless, and as soon as he felt that helplessness, Krishna gave him darshan. So it is very important to have this feeling of helplessness. So how to develop that? So Kunti Maharani is telling that if we have lot of material achievements, it is difficult to feel that mood. So the poverty-stricken or the impoverished way of life is more easy to focus on the Lord. It's very, very easy. So materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but is incapable of uttering the name in quality. So the quality aspect, right now we are on the quantity aspect, we chant more rounds, we do more reading, but here the point is quality aspect. So therefore the four principles of material advancements which are mentioned here are disqualification for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. And so Akrura is telling that we have to focus on spiritual assets, not the material assets. We have to focus on the spiritual assets. So the material covering of pure spirit soul is on external feature as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. So we want the fever to reduce, not the fever to increase. So we should not focus on the material things, but we should focus on the spiritual aspect. Then the fever will reduce. But if the focus is still on maintaining the body, basic things, then that means we know the answer that our fever is increasing. Fever is not decreasing. So the principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which one leads to more and more illusion about the aim of the life. So it is difficult to understand this aspect because we are conditioned and trained and raised in an environment which is preaching the glories of material advancement. So, and all our surrounding, wherever we live, is all about material advancement. And every moment, every newspaper you read, any news article, anything on the internet, whatever, they are just singing the glories of material life. And it is so attractive. But here Mother Kunti is telling that it is a deterrent to growth in our spiritual life. There are exceptions too in Shastra on this, where devotees are given a lot of material opulence, but in general. Then the next verse says, Namo kinchana vittaya nivritto gunavrittaye atma ramaya santaya kaivalya pataye namaha. This is also another beautiful explanation. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. So he is designating Kunti, Krishna, as property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monist. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes that a living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. So in a way, Prabhupada says that we are not renouncing anything, because we cannot stay without having anything. So we are renouncing or we are giving up something to get something better. This is how we are. So, like, a living being cannot be in real sense after a renouncer. A living being renounces something for getting something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain education. A servant gives up his job to get a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. So this we have to understand, that we are not renouncing anything actually. We are getting the most precious treasure, which is our lost relationship with the Lord. So all these teachings of Bhagavad-Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is to establish this relationship with Krishna. The more we know about Krishna, the more we understand his qualities, the more we get inspired to surrender to that personality. But right now, the mind is full with attachment for material qualities. So we have to replace this with the qualities of the Lord. So this association of Srimad Bhagavatam, continuous reading, hearing, chanting, helps to replace that disease. And once that fever go down, then we establish that relationship with Krishna. Still that relationship is not established. If we are still feeling hankering for material subjects, that means we have still not fully developed that relationship with the Lord. And the process we know, chanting of the holy name, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, but the most important part is in association of pure devotees of the Lord. So more we do it in the association of the devotee, quicker is the process, quicker is the benefit we get. So here Srila Prabhupada writes in this purport, the devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. And he gives the example of the Goswamis here. Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami. They were all very opulent, but they gave up all their material possessions and became mendicants in Vrindavan. And they were living their life, begging for their survival. And then the another example Prabhupada gives in the same purport is of Srila Sanatana Goswami, where a person comes to ask him for something more valuable, and he gets a touchstone, which was in a pile of garbage. And then after a while, that person realizes that if touchstone is in the garbage, then that means this sage has something more valuable. And then he goes to him again, and he got connected to the holy name. So this shows the real opulence a devotee have, but this is felt only when the relationship with the Lord is revived. So we have to be more personal in our dealing with the Lord. When we take darshan, we have to glorify them, glorify their beauty, glorify the jewelries they are wearing, the garlands they are wearing, the dress they are offered. So it has to be more on a personal note, darshan. No, it should not, nothing should become mechanical in Krishna consciousness. If doing the same process, we are not relishing doing it, that means it has become mechanical. This is the variety in Krishna consciousness. Even doing the same thing, we get more and more enjoyment every day when we are practicing the devotional services. In the materialistic understanding, if we keep doing the same thing, we get bored, we are disturbed. Why I have to do this every day? I am eating same thing every day. But if you see the mercy of the Lord in that service, if we can relate that on a more personal note, like we heard about the gopis, they were serving Krishna, but their enjoyment or their pleasure was increasing. And seeing that pleasure, Krishna was getting more pleasure. And this keeps on increasing every day. Because they were relishing that newness in the service every day. It was new, novel every day. Not that same thing, every day same khichdi. Even every day same khichdi can be very relishable if we can connect it with Krishna. But because we are looking at it externally, so we are not enjoying eating Krishna Prasad. So we see only challenges in that. So everything external has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is reviving our relationship with Krishna on the platform of soul, which we are. So Sanatana Goswami gave this teaching as an acharya, and Prabhupada continues explaining that this specific example is given for a neophyte devotee, just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. And then he says, unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, So in a way, everything is spiritual, but we don't have that vision. One must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set the example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. So these are very nice examples set by our acharyas to make us understand that the real treasure is serving Krishna and to accept the position that we are servant of the Lord. So this is what Bhagavad-Gita asks in the end, that we have to surrender everything. And surrender can be done only by a true servant. A servant doesn't dictate that this is my condition for surrenderance. So just surrendering means whatever the master says, we do. So we just follow the instructions. And so we see that when this movement was started in 1965, 66, the beginning years, the devotees who joined at that time were fully surrendered to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And so we could see the rapid expansion of the society. And like I was hearing day before from Panchagoda Prabhu that they have to take bath wherever they get space and whole day book distribution. Sometimes they were sleeping in the van. Who would do that now? Because that relationship is not there with the spiritual master. That mood of service is not there. So we are struggling now. Otherwise the process is same. We have same books still available, same wonderful, beautiful deities. Everything is just the same. But internally, we are not focused on the core purpose of our devotional service. We are trying to achieve things externally. How will I look? Oh, it's too cold now. So everything is just on the level of body. So when we go on that mode, then it becomes more difficult. But when you are focusing as a spirit soul, then even taking bath early in the morning and sleeping in the van was so much fun. And so they are continuing for 50 years. If it is not fun, who would continue? They would have left already long back. So the real substance is to see how Krishna will be pleased, how Prabhupada will be pleased, and that is only possible when we establish that relationship of service. So devotional service is very important. It can be reading, hearing is also devotional service. This is out of the Navda Bhakti, 9 processes of devotion. Even reading Bhagavatam is glorifying Krishna. That is one of the best service if someone can do whole day. Very nice service. So any of this process, doing kirtan, but that the mood has to be of the servant, that we are glorifying Krishna, not that I am doing very nice class today and everybody will appreciate me. That should not be the mood. The mood is to glorify the Lord. Genuinely, that by glorifying the Lord, only I can purify my consciousness. That mood has to be there. This is the training. This is the real training we are all into. We are training our consciousness where it remain focused, that everything is for pleasing Guru and Krishna. Otherwise it will become superficial. I mean, we might distribute thousands of books, so much of prasadam, but if the goal, if the focus is not pleasing Krishna, we will not get the full advantage of the process. So in 1813, it glorifies the association of devotees. Tulayama lavanapi na swargam napnuvar bhavan bhagavad sangi sangasya martyanam kim utashisha. The value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of the heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. So a spiritual seeker hankers for association of the devotee. So when we hear when Bhishma Pitama was going to speak on the instructions of Krishna, everybody, all the sages, Maharshis, Rishis, even Parshuram came, all of them came with their disciples. So I was hearing one class by His Holiness Radha Govind Swami Maharaj. He says that Parshuram had a big fight, but still he came to hear. So when it comes to an opportunity to hear glorification of the Lord, we should give up all the differences of the heart or any animosity or fights we have had, but we should be hankering for such opportunity to hear about Krishna and his devotees' glorification. That is the spiritual asset we have. That is what we should be hankering for. And I have one last verse. We have time. This is 119.4. In this, this is describing about Parikshit Maharaj, and Parikshit Maharaj was given this curse by the Brahmana boy, Shringi, and he took this curse as a blessing, Parikshit Maharaj. And Prabhupada writes in the purport that why this happened to him. Parikshit Maharaj, if you read the chapter Birth of Parikshit, he's sum total of all the qualities of all the Mahajan. The way it is described, he has all wonderful qualities of a devotee, Parikshit Maharaj. He was not an ordinary personality. From the beginning, even before his birth, Krishna was protecting him. Yeah. So Prabhupada says that real happiness is achieved by spiritual existence or by cessation of repetition of birth and death. Oh, sorry, not this. Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord and a bona fide candidate for entering into the kingdom of God. But even though he was so, his material assets as the emperor of the world were set back to perfect attainment of his rightful status as one of the associates of the Lord in spiritual sky. As a devotee of the Lord, he could understand that the cursing of the Brahmana boy, although unwise, was a blessing upon him because the cause of detachment from the worldly affairs, both political and social. So, because he was having so much of material possession, he took it that it is favorable to me. Now I have to give up everything. And then what did he did? He just sat in the assembly of sages to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a great message that our real treasure or real asset or real spiritual asset is these books of Srila Prabhupada. If we can take shelter of them, we can certainly free ourselves from all the challenges in our spiritual life and gradually move towards taking shelter towards the lotus feet of the Lord. So in this purport, Prabhupada further goes in explaining that how Lord protect his devotees. So he gives example of Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur was living in a cave, and in that cave also there was a snake. And so many of the admirers of Haridas Thakur were coming to see him, but because of the snake they were getting disturbed. And so they advised Haridas Thakur to change the cave. But the moment Haridas Thakur thought of this, the snake left the cave. So this is how Krishna takes care of the devotees. So if we are focused on the purpose of life, the goal of life, everything is provided. And Prabhupada writes that even the tiger, if Prabhupada writes in the purport that even if there is a tiger, Krishna can convince the tiger not to disturb the devotee. He writes like that. This is how Krishna protects the devotee. But we should have that faith and surrender. Like Prahlad Maharaj, we see all the examples in Bhagavatam. Krishna takes full charge and full protection. So, in the end, Prabhupada concludes this purport by saying that a human being is required to accumulate Daivi Sampata. Daivi Sampati is spiritual assets. Otherwise, the next alternative is Asuri Sampati or material assets. It will overcome him disproportionately, and thus one will be forced into the entanglement of different miseries of the material world. So the human life is meant to focus on Daivi Sampat. Daivi Sampat is the spiritual assets and not the material assets. This is how we can free ourselves from this hankering. This is what Kunti is praying, this is what all the devotees are praying. This is what Lord Chaitanya is preaching to his devotees, to live a simple life, free from sins. So this is also another point in this shloka, that we have to become sinless. We cannot continue performing sins. So unless and until we live a simple life, it is difficult to be free from the sins. There are many sins we are committing and we have to focus on that. So minimum has to be accepted, and the most favorable recommended simple life is living like Krishna. His Holiness Chandra Mauli Maharaj has written a book, Krishna's Living, the Natural Way of Life. So it glorifies how the Brajbasis were living a simple life. So we should try to simplify our life living here in Vrindavan, and then gradually doing away with all the material possessions, and minimum standard of life should be accepted, and focusing more on chanting, reading, hearing, serving the devotees, and taking shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any comments? Mike?
So we see that by distribution of Bible, many people became Christians, and we're distributing Bhagavad-Gita profusely during the marathon in particular. But it seems as though Prabhupada went one step beyond than just to give the literature out, but also created a scientific formula by which you can realize Bhagavad-Gita by actually executing the order of the spiritual master, following the rules and regulations, and paying attention. Because it seems like many people may claim to be of a particular religion, but they don't really understand that there are rules and regulations which govern that religion, and so they sometimes misuse. And I was listening to a lecture today when Prabhupada was giving the Bhagavatam lecture. He stopped, he said, he looked at somebody, he said, "Oh, you are working now? Don't divert your attention." So we have a tendency sometimes that the mind goes here, goes there, goes everywhere. We're not really paying attention to what is being said. We may routinely sit down because we're supposed to sit down, but it seems that we need to, how you say, be more focused and attentive to really understand the essence of the teaching. Can you say something about that?
Yeah, you spoke very well. We have to be focused, yes. Without the focus, we'll lose the main substance. So it's all about focusing on what we are getting. Actually, we are focusing on complaining more. Actually, we are getting more. If we analyze it carefully, we are getting so much mercy in all the way. We have wonderful association, wonderful deities, books, guidance, everything is available. But if we just lose our vision and we are focusing only on external things, oh, it's too cold, how can I come in the Bhagavatam class, it's too cold, how can I come to the Mangal Arti, then it becomes more external. So focus means we are not this body, we are a spirit soul, that's the focus. So if we keep focusing on that aspect, then we can be a real servant and continue our services. This is how I understand.
As we hear that the Goswamis, they were staying outside, and how can we follow the Goswamis?
By deciding to follow them.
By staying awake in class.
Prabhu spoke already that we have to follow the process and with focus. Because we don't have that focus, the bodily needs are not reducing. Because these Goswamis were so focused, they wanted to extract maximum out of the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, so they just renounced everything and chose this service which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was giving. So we have to dedicate ourselves to the instructions of the spiritual master. Then we get that mercy to be more focused and advancing. But right now we are not following the instructions of Guru. That's the real challenge. Following is following of the mind. That's the challenge.
As we understand that we are the soul, but because of the body disturbance, we cannot give up that one.
Yeah, disturbance is from the mind. That we are body, not a spirit soul. That is the disturbance. That is the real. You see in Vrindavan, so many people are still peacefully living outside. I mean, it's routine in Vrindavan. There is not enough housing than people living in Vrindavan. But we are used to more comforts. That's the challenge. Yes.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the session. I want to ask that Mahabhagavad, and they see that sva-dharma-vimukhas, so they see Krishna everywhere. So, like you said about the Prahlad Maharaj also. So, and you said one statement that you told about Haridas Thakur also, the snake left the cage. So, I want to ask, can I please request you to tell something more that how it happens that everywhere they can see Krishna? So, of course, they are Mahajan, they are Uttam Adhikari. If you can tell something more, that how, if we are performing devotional service, we are trying to perform, so how we can have that vision?
Mm-hmm.
They see everything in Krishna's service.
Yes. Yes.
Give the mic here. Example coming out your way. Now pay attention, okay? Don't play with your phones right now.
Hare Krishna. No, just a simple example. To see Krishna everywhere. When I gave Prabhupada, I always tell this story with the jasmine, the night jasmine. And every night Prabhupada would put it by his nose and I would give him a massage. And the one night I brought it in and he took it and he smelled and he said, "This is Krishna." So it's Krishna, seeing Krishna in everything. Sitting in the garden when he asked, "What color is Krishna?" And there's just 5 of us there. So immediately you become bewildered. Because why is he asking that question? What color is Krishna? So the devotee raised his hand and said, "Prabhupada, it's described in Krishna book that Krishna is darkish like the monsoon rain cloud, blackish like the monsoon rain cloud." And Prabhupada he said he's blue like the sky. He said when you see the sky, he said that's the reflection of Krishna's bodily effulgence. So this is how you see Krishna. This is how, in different stages, you have to see Krishna in everything. Everything's coming from Krishna. The taste of water, the taste of wine. Right? Prabhupada said the wine of drinks, and he thinks that this is very tasty, this is Krishna. He said he'll make advancement in that. So it's just seeing Krishna in everyday things. This is our process.
Yes.
You asked.
I think wine is prohibited.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. Prabhuji, how can we transition from being servant of the senses to servant of Krishna? Because like we keep jumping here and there. Sometimes we are servant of Krishna and we are serving in the temple. Sometimes we go back.
Yeah, but as we understand that it's a decision we are making, it's not difficult. Like Arjuna hearing Bhagavatam, once Bhagavad-Gita he understood this, that now he has to work for Krishna's instruction. So he took that decision. So in general we are, because of the weakness, we are not able to take that decision. And we are not working to establish the relationship with Krishna. That's another thing I understand. The more we sincerely perform devotional services with consciousness that we are trying to please Krishna, not just trying to achieve things externally, like any service you do, maybe doing kirtan or distributing prasadam, but you should be able to see Krishna as Prabhu was describing just now. So that conditioning what we have now has to be replaced with the teachings of the scriptures. So even if you read more, that is my personal experience, I can say after I came to Vrindavan, I was inspired that I should read more, and now I'm reading more. And just by reading more and more, it is helping so much. So we are reading now 3 hours, 4 hours a day. If you just start with that, I think that will solve your questions very easily. But, sorry?
Also Arjuna, he had doubts, obviously, and after Krishna explained the karma yoga, the gunas, and all the modes of material nature, and philosophically, and he explained everything, then Arjuna said, oh, okay, now I'm totally convinced, I fully surrender. So it does take some time by, like you said, following the process Prabhupada gave us and keep trying to surrender.
Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.